Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bitchuation Room with Francesca Fiorentini. Notes from the sunken place, from the upside down. We're still here somehow. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for pressing play. If you're listening in the future, don't worry. I know we don't make it. It's cool. We're just, living on borrowed time here in between one climate apocalypse and another. But isn't it kind of nice briefly when you're not sweating your tits off? The point is, welcome to the show. We've got a great show. We are going to be talking a little bit later on to journalist Taylor Lorenz about a new piece she has out in Wired about dark money funding some Democratic influencers. This article has caused a massive kerfuffle anywhere left of center. I am excited to have Taylor on to talk about it, as well as comedian Mary Houlihan, who is going to be joining me to talk about the CDC and the FDA, specifically new COVID-19 vaccine guidelines. Quite the 180 that we've done under Donald Trump 2.0. Just incredible. And speaking of Donald Trump 2.0, there's been question over the weekend. And happy belated Labor Day. Remember, Labor Day was created to throw Americans a bone after we successfully won an 8-hour workday that led to May Day, which is May 1st. That is the Global International Workers' Day. But we had to be co-opted and silenced into Labor Day. The point is people were speculating that Trump is not well. We're going to speculate as well. However, I've got bad news. So stay tuned for some of this bad news as to whether Donald Trump is actively dying, although we don't know. Still question mark TBD. We're also going to take a look at comedian Adam Friedland's very, very intense interview with Ritchie Torres of the Bronx. It got very real, and I am excited to talk to Mary about this and her reaction to someone trying to really get through to basically an AIPAC politician. The point is, if you're here, you like and share the stream, come through, like and give the podcast 5 stars wherever you're listening. Shout out to Houston, Texas. I had a great time there. Matt and I, we did a show at the Punchline on Thursday. It was super fun. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you to the people who will be coming to a future show, like my show New World Disorder in Pasadena this Friday, September 5th at 7:45 p.m. Come through. Asif Ali, comedian, actor, is going to be there. River Butcher, who's been on this show before. Kari Assad, as well as Matt Lieb. It's going to be a good time. So get your tickets. Love the Ice House, by the way. Hate ice. Love the Ice House. Also, in Brooklyn, Monday, October 13th. That's where it's going down. Me, Matt Lieb, we're co-headlining. Matt's Bad Hasbara shows are all sold out. But guess what? Our co-headlining show at the Bell House has not sold out yet. So get your tickets, Brooklyn. I'm excited to see you there. It is a Monday. I understand, but whatever. Mondays are the new Thursdays, which were the new Fridays. Fridays suck, obviously. Saturdays have been dead. The point is, it's a Monday, and you should come through. Also, if you want to support the show and the labor of love, specifically some of these deep dives, my God, an hour of everything that RFK Jr. has destroyed. Become a patron, patreon.com/bitchuationroom, $5 a month, $10 a month gets you a shout out during the fart song. It supports this little labor of love. You also get ad-free content as a podcast. You get a special RSS feed. You don't have to listen to those pre-roll ads or anything. You will have to listen to me talking and the ads that support this show, because I am an open book, baby. You are the ones who fund this independent, leftist, truly leftist little venture here. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's become a patron or a member on Substack, a paid member on Substack, or a member on YouTube, or a member on Twitch. Hell, I'm not picky, although I do prefer Patreon. I'm picky. The point is that I'm picky, but I appreciate you nevertheless. Her is a stand-up comedian, writer, and artist based in Brooklyn and Los Angeles. She's appeared on The Chris Gethard Show, Broad City, Danny's House, Billy on the Street, Rachel Dratch's Late Night Snack, and Jimmy Kimmel Live. She writes for The New Yorker and McSweeney's and made artwork for Joe Pera Talks with You on YouTube, on Adult Swim. I saw You and I got confused. She's also going on tour and she has a Twitch show. She's busy. Her Twitch show streams on Thursdays and it's called Mary Houlihan's Painting Party. Please welcome Mary Houlihan.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Fran.
I pronounced Gethard wrong, didn't I? Gethard.
I think you nailed it. He should change it.
Gethard. Apparently he's catching. John says he's catching strays, and I'm sorry. I am sorry, Chris. Mary, welcome. Does this mean you paint when you do your show?
Yes, I paint. Those are my paintings back there and there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
They're gorgeous.
Thank you.
I love that. If you're listening, there's a snake, there's a tortoise, there's a cacti, and there's a cat. Is that a cat?
It's a skunk.
It's a better cat. It's a skunk. Thank you so much for being here, Mary. I'm very excited to ask you this question I ask everybody as we start off the show. We get loose and we say, what am I bitching about today? What are you bitching about? Goodness. In September 2nd, right when summer starts here in Los Angeles and it gets hotter than Hades, what are you bitching about, Mary?
Is there a clock?
No, but I should institute one.
Okay, mine's intense, okay?
Okay. That's okay.
Okay, my bitch. I'm Irish American and I need Irish Americans to come out and be loud about their support for Palestine. All my friends are Jewish and some of them can't talk about it because their parents will disown them. So everyone else who's not going to get disowned has to talk about it. Growing up Irish Catholic, I have vivid memories of my uncles talking about the unfair media coverage of the Troubles. They'd say, the New York Times is calling freedom fighters terrorists. What about them? That's what they say, okay? And when you go to Ireland, you see Palestinian flags all over the place.
Yes.
Ireland and Palestine are like this. And every famous Irish person is condemning the genocide. And I need Irish Americans to also do it. It's not taboo if all of you do it. And, okay.
And more. Well, first of all, I appreciate that you're being sensitive to people who feel like they can't say anything because their families will get mad at them, like Jewish Americans who I have less understanding and love for that. But I appreciate that you're saying like Irish people, both in solidarity with Palestinians and Jewish people, can do more. Like they can pick up the slack.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it, because for a while I was kind of just like doing stuff on my stories and like not being a big bitch about it on social media. And then a friend of mine, they started getting like threats from immigration. Like their lawyer was telling them, just shut up for a while. This person was like super pro-Palestine. And that really was something that like triggered me of like, well, that's one less person talking. So I need to be louder.
Yeah.
And okay, do you want to hear my hot take?
Please, please.
Speaking of Irish Americans, Jimmy Fallon, book a Muslim to do 5 minutes of stand-up on your show. Why the hell have you not done that? You know that looks crazy, right? That looks crazy. Every other late night host has talked about Gaza. You talked about it for one sentence once. Book a goddamn Muslim comedian. What are you scared of? That they're going to say free Palestine on the air? Who cares? Just do it.
Yeah, like not even Rami or what. But I guess Rami was on SNL and did say free Palestine at some point, kind of like worked it into his monologue. No, but Fallon is the worst. I mean, Fallon is probably AI. Like it's wild. Like that he was on the technology years and years and years ago, and also drunk half the time. But like, yes, his show is the safest. And it is kind of it is very glaring to not have a Muslim comedian at
Yeah,
like
and
on
like
your show, or like an Arab
if your
American.
show is supposed to be like, no, we don't talk about politics, it's all fun, then yeah, having the stand up, that's the opportunity to show we're with you guys. But are you not with us?
Right,
Looks
right.
like it.
Wait, has Zoran not been on
No, they
the
had
Tonight Show?
Gutfeld on the other week.
Oh my god! Yes, this is do you realize like how exciting that must have been for Gutfeld to be like, I am somebody now.
I know,
I'm
right?
actually on Fallon, which is so great. And I'm of two minds because Gutfeld's show has better ratings, I'm assuming,
Oh
than Jimmy
God.
Fallon's show.
Yeah, I guess so.
Which is probably painful. Like he's like one of the most watched late night shows is Gutfeld's like roundtable. Anyway, for better or worse, but yeah, the God, they just need better writers. They really do. And honestly, if anyone took that job, I wouldn't hold it against them. I probably would, but
No,
I'd be like, you know what? It's at least you're being open about it. I get paid by
I
Fox.
think everyone should like get jobs wherever they can get them and then try to push it, like pitch as political stuff as you can get on. And then what are they going to do? Fire you? Then
Right.
that looks cool.
Right. I can't believe I'm trying to give him pointers, but yes, the Gutfeld thing was awful. I love this. I love that you're bitching about these things. I love, yes, Tig Hickey, who is an Irish comedian, is currently on the global Samud flotilla heading to Gaza to try to break the siege. And he posted something the other day about being triggered by the British flag. And it was so good. He was like, I can deal with the snoring and the seasickness and probably being taken captive by the most psychopathic military on the face of the earth, but I can't do this. And it was like picture of the British flag, and that was good. So that there's a lot of Irish solidarity energy. I mean, Mary, the biggest name that comes to mind is Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
Quite Irish, quite Catholic. And yet, they disowned the shit out of him with his, green lighting of this genocide and assistance with it. So yes, that was a missed opportunity. Let's all the Irish out there make up for Biden.
Well,
And
come on, roll him out. Get him
yeah.
to say something.
Oh God, this is. It's really a contest. I don't know. Okay, just like gun to your head, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Water gun to your head.
Yes.
Who's going first, Biden or Trump?
Oh my God. I do kind of get the argument that evil keeps you alive longer, but he looks so bad. His hands look like charcoal. So.
Okay, but like good charcoal, like hot, like striking when the iron is hot. Yes, I kind of. So you're basically saying it's a
I'm
toss
saying
up.
his extremities are failing, so certainly his heart should fail soon, sometime.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, it's like Trump's veins and Biden's prostate that are just like, they're having like a fucking Grease movie, like, drag race or whatever. And we're all here to see it and suffer because of it. Let's move on to what I'm bitching about. This is very brief, but Mary, I didn't do it today because our Orange Man segment is really going to be talking about the health of our dear president. But I, the other week, made some jokes about Alligator Alcatraz, and now what a ridiculous name it is. Now, pin in that, Alligator Alcatraz actually is going bye-bye, which is kind of this stealth win that people aren't really talking about that much, but it had faced 3 lawsuits, and one of them was successful, and that was brought by an environmental organization and the Muskogee tribe. That was basically like, this was constructed in 8 days. This did not pass any environmental snuff or regulation. And you're on like native land. So bye-bye. And that actually worked. So a federal judge said that it has to be dismantled. And it seems like most of the prisoners, the detainees, are being transferred out of there. So it's like kind of amazing. Thankfully, no one has to suffer there any longer and will be, checking in on that. Of course, we'll see, right? If we draw too much attention to it, they might be like, nuh-uh, so we just have to let it quietly close and reverse psychology them a little bit. But the real thing is that I then found this article because Alligator Alcatraz is just one detention facility that will be built and is being built. There are so many others, and I made the joke, that like Montana will have Grouse Guantanamo, and it's very dangerous. And yet Satire is dead right now, as because they are talking about things like Speedway Slammer in Indiana.
What?
And
why did they go?
Isn't that's for like NASCAR, right? I'm assuming Speedway Slammer.
100. So and then they're coming up with these names. These aren't the media's monikers for them.
They are coming up with these names. Another one is Cornhusker Clink in Nebraska. So I'm bitching about the fact that there is no amount of satire that can actually skewer this administration. They're immune to it. They kind of love it. I'm giving them ideas. And as my, good friend of the show, Nato Green, says, it is like a work speed up as a comedian to write anything related to the current political situation that we're in. Because you're like, well, they already did it. They already they're the Cornhusker Clink. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm bitching about. The comedy is unwritable, and I shan't try. I'm going to become a monk. Okay?
Yeah, I try not to really say anything about Trump ever because it's just boring, right?
He's really mad that you said that. That's very offensive. They're really trying to not make it boring. They made these detention facilities names spicy for you to be like, I don't know, that one sounds cute. You're not responding in kind.
Yeah, it feels like it's fishing for like the libs to be like, I can't believe this. And right. So you have to fight it by being like, no, I'm not going to write an article about that. That's stupid. You're not getting my airtime.
Yes. Agreed. I'm going to take you out for 1 second, Mary, and have a little heart-to-heart with my audience. Because before we go to the week where, I have to let you know that this morning, I dropped my daughter off at a new daycare, like a preschool. I don't know. There's a dead zone that happens between the ages of 3 and 5 where nobody knows where kids should go and nobody knows what the names of the place they're at are. The point is it was her first day at a new place and she screamed bloody murder. And oh my God, my heart as a mom, I was just like, I can't. So what did I do? I came home and I popped one of my Focus gummies with lion's mane, cordyceps, and of course, 25 milligrams of CBD because Sunset Lake CBD is there in those stressful moments. Now, sadly, of course, I couldn't get a gummy to her, and nor would I because that's irresponsible. And you have to be 18 or older to go to sunsetlakecbd.com and imbibe or partake one of the many awesome gummies, tinctures, now teas and drinks that have anywhere from 5 milligrams of THC to 1 milligram. So you can have a little bit of a fun buzz without all the calories that come along with alcohol and, like the sad hangover the next day. The point is sunsetlakecbd.com. Go there and use coupon code FRANTIFA, FRANTIFA at checkout for 20% off your order. Very exciting. Very exciting. It's just very exciting. It's always exciting. And I'm happy that you are still here. Here's the other thing about me and being a busy mom whose work is like always kind of thing. There's not a lot of time to cook. Just to be real, I got called out by Riled Up Riley over on Patreon. Like, what are your favorite dishes? And I was like, Factor. But that's okay because Factor has delicious stuff. So I'm not embarrassed to say that I love Factor meals, that they're super easy when you want like a balanced, healthy, and also yummy, like surprisingly yummy, not frozen meal. And also that isn't like a bunch of Trader Joe's gyozas because I will just eat a bunch of pot stickers and like, this is way better. And now if you go to factormeals.com/bitchuation50 off, use coupon code bitchuation50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's insane. That's obviously you have to be enrolled. There's a huge variety of meal options, premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Support your wellness goals. There's even more GLP-1 friendly meals. Also new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good for you fats. So eat smart at factormeals.com/bitchuation50 off. Use code bitchuation, that's BITCHUATION 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus a free breakfast for 1 year. Again, Bitchuation50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off plus breakfast free for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. With that, we bring back the woman who stabilizes my internet, Mary Houlihan. When there's nothing else to do. Mary, so many things happened this week. Let's dig in to two of the biggest ones. This is the week where. First and foremost, I have bad news for you, Mary, and this happened today, which is that this person is still very much alive.
I would say Governor Moore, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals. We took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals.
There we go. Donald Trump, the president of the United States, somehow is still alive out here spewing his racist hate, saying people in Baltimore were born to be criminals. And this is him trying to get Maryland Governor Wes Moore to call him to ask, because Mary, this is sort of, we're at the stage of sending the National Guard into cities to quote unquote clean them up, where Trump can't, it's like a vampire stage where he can't let them in without being invited. So he's like, just invite us, JB Pritzker, just invite us, Wes Moore, and we will come in and suck your blood and the life from you.
So stupid. He's like Carcetti from The Wire. You ever watch that?
Of course.
His whole thing is like, the crime's crazy, everyone, vote for me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he needs to partner with a Carcetti, right? Like, this is, first of all, yes, Carcetti would be like, absolutely.
Let him in.
Well, we can do that. I mean, Mayor Bowser of DC is being, reamed for this because effectively she was adding more cops. She was complying. She, was totally fine with, what was happening in DC, which is basically invoking Home Rule Act. And she's getting called out by residents of DC there because no matter how much any mayor is going to capitulate or any governor is going to capitulate to Trump, it's not going to be enough. If you're a blue city, if you didn't vote for him, it's not going to be enough. Yes, he's very much alive, guys. He had a whole weekend of no activities. Then he was seen leaving his golf course in Virginia with this old man, sort of gaping mouth. He was waving goodbye, and it's just sort of tired old man hand. And yes, as we mentioned before, this was after weeks of knowing that he has chronic venous insufficiency, which is just fancy for erectile dysfunction. We all were hoping this was a very big, it's a little bit on the level of like JD Vance fucks couches, it's aspirational. But so a lot of people were hoping, maybe he's been sicker than usual. And, he didn't look amazing this afternoon. But he was, able enough to play the hits and to put hits out on different Democrats.
I'm hopeful. I think he looks at death's door. So, okay, I feel so there's all this stuff about like, okay, the military is taking over DC and what city's next. Is that a thing that like the governor or the mayor has to invite them in? What is that?
No, it's not. I
Because they
mean,
can just show up, right?
the thing is that they lost this lawsuit in against LA, basically, that
Mhm.
calling the National Guard was not legal. So they want to avoid that same situation. They could do it in DC because, again, you can federalize the police force under this Home Rule Act. It's why DC needs statehood and more, sovereignty and whatnot. But yeah, he's basically doing this thing where it's like, come on, Pritzker, just say the word. Come on, Westmore of Maryland, say the word. Let me in. Which, yes, there's so much storybook. It's very like,
So
vampire,
stupid.
very little pig, let me in. But it is minimal amounts of progress. Like as stupid and awful as he is, it's like, okay, cool. It seems like maybe they're learning and won't unilaterally do this. And it's ironic because we now know that, states like Louisiana, and, red states and red cities like Louisville have far more crime, specifically far more murders per capita than any blue state, than California, than Los Angeles, and on and on and on and on. But of course, he's not going to send the National Guard there. And yet, ironically, those are the governors who might
You would
actually
like it.
want that. Yeah, right. It might be helpful. And again, I'm not for this, but so yes, sad to say, he's alive. He's fine. And like, I know old people who are around his age, and sometimes their hands are bruised. It's kind of a thing.
Mm.
When you're on a lot of blood thinners, it just happens. But let's move on because this is not for want of trying to kill old people, as this regime is doing. The new FDA has introduced new COVID vaccine restrictions. That's right, COVID vaccine restrictions. Bear with me, Mary, because I think this is one of the most insane 180s to come from this regime possible. Because here you have a man, Donald Trump, who was in his first term so proud of the vaccine rollout, so proud of Operation Warp Speed. But because his audience had been anti-vax, pilled or unpilled, they turned on him. And so he knew it's the one thing he's done. That and maybe trans issues. If I want to get reelected, I have to throw trans people under the bus and all gay people under the bus, LGBTQ plus people under the bus. And I have to turn my back on my own only crowning achievement, which was probably Operation Warp Speed, because we don't listen to experts anymore.
We need to stop trusting the experts, right? We were told at the beginning of COVID, don't look at any data yourself. Don't do any investigation yourself. Just trust the experts. And trusting the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature of democracy. It's a feature of religion, and it's a feature of totalitarianism. In democracies, we have the obligation, and it's one of the burdens of citizenship, to do our own research and make our own determinations.
In democracies, we don't trust experts. What about election experts? What about the people who work on things like mail-in voting that you're trying to destroy? Authoritarianism relies on experts. Sure. I mean, this is what, quite literally the opposite of authoritarianism is relying on a panel of boring science people who know what they're doing and navigate bureaucracy every day so we don't die. That's what democracy is. It's often very boring, but very important. And speaking of what, yes, go ahead.
He's actually a really interesting figure to me because I'm a big history buff, Fran. And I think if you're a Kennedy and no one's trying to blow your head off, you're probably not doing anything that good.
It's true. He's probably trying to orchestrate his own attempted assassination. But yeah, it's at least your uncle did something, as well as your dad.
Yeah.
So,
but he just shoots dope and eats bears. But Go off, I guess.
He does. And now he's taking aim at all of us with that, because these COVID-19 vaccine restrictions include anyone who is under the age of 65. So if you're over 65, you're eligible still to get your COVID-19 vaccine. But 6 months and up, 5 years and up to get, 6 months and up for Moderna, 5 years and up for Pfizer, 12 years and up for Novavax. Now, this is kind of crazy because I vaccinated my then 1.5, 2-year-old with the Pfizer vaccine. She's not 5. So she now couldn't get Pfizer if, let's say, the nearest clinic only had Pfizer. She can't get that without proving she has, or any of us have, if you're under 65, cancer, chronic diseases, diabetes, heart conditions, weakened immune system, mental health conditions, overweight and obesity, physical inactivity, pregnancy, smoking, substance use disorders, transplant. Here's what I'll say. It's good pregnancies on here, because a lot of the recommendations that were coming out from the CDC, the new CDC, were that pregnant people should not get vaccinated, which is terrifying to me as someone who got vaccinated and got COVID while pregnant. But I don't know, Mary. I feel like at this point, here's what I want to know. If you roll up and you say, I have a chronic disease, it's called Trump derangement syndrome, do you think that the MAGA and the Maha base will give me a vaccine?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, this just seems like a total mess. Like anyone that's working at a pharmacy and giving out vaccines, they're just going to have a situation now where every single person who goes in says, I'm a smoker, or I'm overweight, or I have depression. It's just going to be an influx of people exaggerating or making up things that they have. And I could certainly see, and yeah, it seems like it's going to be at the discretion of the person working there. So I bet you there will be people that go in saying, I have Trump derangement syndrome, wink, wink. And then the person laughs and says, okay, here we go. Let me give you your vaccine.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I think I'm going to have to start smoking in order to get a chronic disease to then get my COVID-19 vaccine. I'm pissed about this. I did a whole video about RFK Jr. We knew these, the limitations on the COVID-19 vaccine were coming, even though there is no evidence. Like, what is the evidence that children under 5 are being hurt by Pfizer? There is none. It does not exist. And 3 CDC leaders have resigned. This is just in the past week. They cited the frustration specifically around vaccines and the rise of misinformation. That was according to Chief Medical Officer Deborah Houry. And so here we are. And exactly as you said, this throws everything into sort of chaos. Depending on the panel's advice as a CDC panel, Americans under 65 could be expected to provide documentation of a serious medical problem before they can get a shot. Also complicating the rollout is the fact that pharmacists who administer most COVID-19 shots aren't typically expected to collect that kind of information, and laws governing their ability to administer routine vaccinations vary by state. Also, insurers. And of course, right now, the vaccine is free, but if insurers aren't required to, if you're under 65 and you haven't had enough proof that you've got some sort of chronic issue, what do you think insurers are going to do? They're going to prevent you. They're going to make you pay for it. They typically base their vaccine coverage decisions on the recommendations of a panel of advisors to the CDC, exactly the panel that, as I spoke about in my long form piece, that RFK Jr. dissolved and then stacked with a bunch of kooks. If the vaccines aren't covered by their insurance, those patients can be required to pay $150 or more out of pocket if they want one. If they aren't considered high risk, they might also have to find a doctor or other healthcare professional willing to give the shot, quote, off label. Yeah, this is cool. I love that. I love a back alley vaccination. Nothing instills more confidence.
Yeah. It's, oh gosh. My boyfriend, his mom is Maha, and she's like in love with RFK. I honestly think that's a big part of his appeal, of like women of a certain age do find him sexy.
Yes. Just like Chardonnay moms who are draped in alpaca. Yeah. That's my thing.
But I feel, well,
Is
And
she
then
turning?
also,
Is she having a come to Jesus moment, or she likes
no,
this?
no, she's really into it because it is like brainwashing. And so I feel like you have to like, if you want things to change, you do have to like talk to people like that and try to like figure out where your common ground is. And I
Yeah.
feel like a good thing is like people on our side want the health insurance system to be overhauled. So if you can get a person like that to like put their guard down and say, yes, we both agree that some of these drug companies
Are making a
aren't the
lot of
best
money,
and some
right?
of these insurance companies aren't the best. Okay, we agree on that reality. Then it's baby steps to de-radicalizing them.
I mean,
But
this is the whole thing with conspiracies, is that there is a kernel
a
of
grain of
truth,
truth.
then
Yeah.
a grain of truth, which makes it so much harder to undo. Bernie
Yeah.
Sanders is trying. I mean, this, I don't know why every senator isn't, I mean, every Democratic senator isn't saying this, but he just had an op-ed over the weekend saying Kennedy must resign. And again, just to give, I mean, people were shitting on Bernie Ford, but Bernie is, when it came to RFK Jr., he was like, look, I like your beliefs around, big agriculture or big pharma, and BT dubs, he's done nothing and isn't doing anything to actually rein those lobbyists in. In fact, big tobacco is a huge donor to MAGA and to Trump. In addition to, like, big agriculture is like, sure, we'll get rid of this one food dye,
Right.
but not pesticides. Go fuck yourself. And he's like, oh, okay. So Bernie's writing here. This week, Mr. Kennedy pushed out the director, yes, for CDC and prevention, after less than 1 month on the job because she refused to act as a rubber stamp for his dangerous policies. 4 leading officials of the CDC resigned the same week. One of those officials said Mr. Kennedy's team asked him to, quote, change studies that have been settled in the past, apparently to fit Mr. Kennedy's anti-vax views. This is not making America healthy again. So, yeah, I hope, like, God, I hope we could get this fool out. That, I think, is definitely, he is the most, single-handedly the most dangerous person in this administration. Like, far and away, in my opinion. And that's, I mean, it's a very close call. There's fucking Pete Hegseth. Like, come on now. All right. Let's go to our next little segment, because right before, I think over the weekend, but this week, the congressman from the Bronx, Ritchie Torres, who is a noted, very noted, staunch supporter of Israel, to the tune, holy moly, of almost $1.5 million in AIPAC funding. So that's just AIPAC, right? Doesn't say, like, all the other pro-Israel lobbying groups. Who knows? Ritchie Torres went on comedian Adam Friedland's show, and Adam Friedland is a comedian and he does these interview shows, and I think they're supposed to be comedic and awkward and, like, and yet this one was a real opportunity that honestly I hadn't seen from anyone, because clearly he's not going to sit down with someone who's going to, like, give him hardball questions. And instead of really giving him hardball questions, Adam just kind of was open and honest with, how he felt about Ritchie Torres and specifically about the genocide. The other thing to know is that Ritchie Torres has been weirdly supportive of Zoran Mamdani, which is like, what? So maybe Torres is, like, changing his tune. Anyway, whatever caused him to go on the show, he went on the show. And here he is.
What does it look like to have a flag with a Jewish star and I'm Jewish? And for kids to be starving right now? Why is my government... I don't want to do this fight. Let's not do like a yelling at each other thing. I really just... For me, I had the experience of...
It just sounds like you're justifying anti-Semitism, which making me feel...
Are you crazy right now?
Okay.
Why would I do that? You're doing the I'm Hamas thing?
I'm not saying
it's
you're
not
Hamas,
a winner.
but I'm not, I think there should be...
We'll do a different tack.
Israeli government...
Okay, so just to give some context, the setup to this part of the conversation was basically Ritchie Torres saying that there is anti-Semitism on campuses, and Adam's like, what are you talking about? Where? And he was like, well, people were followed into a restaurant one time. And so this is that reaction.
And policy should have no bearing on, if you have disagreements with the Israeli government, you should voice your criticism of the Israeli government, but there is no justification for intimidation or harassment against American Jews.
I'm telling you as a Jew right now that we are receiving a lot more hate because of what the people with a flag that has a Jewish star on are doing to other people right now.
That might be.
And I'm telling you, as a Jewish person, how painful it is for us to say, and it hurts my stomach to say this, and you're going to say, I disagree, that this is a genocide. And that hurts to say that a Jew could do that. It hurts because we grew up with learning about what hatred is. We grew up learning about this. And the same year the State of Israel was established, in 1948, the world saw the Holocaust, and they established standards for what a genocide is. It was the same year. And the world said that this shouldn't be a thing that happens. You know? And I just wonder, like, it doesn't make sense to me, I don't know, it doesn't track to me why there's this fixation with kids at a school and two examples of people at a restaurant that there was banging.
Two examples. I mean, there are surveys on it.
Give me
read the ADL surveys on it. Because
it's hard for me to talk about this in public because you're being a dick. That's mean.
No, I'm not being mean. I'm just clear it's an emotional topic.
All right, I'll share with you what happened.
I'm not.
I lived there.
I don't intend to be mean. So.
Sir, I lived there when I was 18, and I grew up a Zionist. And we were told, and our whole community in this country is told, that we have to defend Israel and love Israel because it will stop the Holocaust. It will stop another Holocaust from happening. And my dad was born in 1951. That was 6 years after these atrocities. His friends' parents, he knew these people that had been through this hell, these skeletons. And it terrified us. And the understanding in our community is that we have to defend Israel. But I lived there, and I went to a settlement at the end of my year there, and I looked down a hill at a Palestinian village, and I saw how they lived, and I turned back and I looked at the settlement and saw how they lived. And people live in a world where they're demeaned and dehumanized and surveilled constantly by people and this isn't in Gaza, by people in SWAT team outfits with semi-automatic weapons, and that's what the world is seeing.
Okay, so I just let that run a little bit, but this is Adam, like, bearing his soul. He's very much, like, pleading, like, we are experiencing anti-Semitic hate because of what the people with the flag, with the Jewish star, are doing in our name. And that, I think, is really, really powerful. And what's crazy, Mary, is that clearly Ritchie Torres, and I have my thoughts about, like, where he's coming at this from, but Ritchie Torres is an automaton when he will not let Adam's other worldview, other, like, Jewish identity that does not identify with genocide, he will not let it penetrate his deeply propagandized entire existence. I mean, his funding comes from that. His entire fucking, like, his entire, like, identity has honestly been built, especially after October 7th, on defending Israel no matter what. Recently, he said some things about famine. Okay. And like I mentioned, he's supportive of Zoran, which is better than Hakeem Jeffries. But this is like water and oil. Like, they are operating on totally different planes right now,
Yeah. This interview was, like, really beautiful to me. I really loved it because it is moving to see someone crying. I don't know if he's all the way crying, but his voice sounds like he's about to cry. Mm-hmm. And, like, I just think it sets a really good example because so many people fall into those logic traps when they get into an argument with someone where they're talking about, wow, life is so bad for Palestinians. And then the other person says, but Hamas, but the hostages.
Yes.
But they use these talking points where you're like, okay, now you're calling me a terrorist, or you're making me have to defend the existence of terrorism.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just have like an honest conversation about, this is what I'm seeing and this is how I feel about it? And so many people don't know how to do that. And I think it's made worse because people are online all the time.
Yeah.
And so you're just agreeing with the people you agree with, and
you're afraid. I mean, I think most people are chicken shit. That's the reality. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't watch a lot of Adam Friedland like shows, clips, or like videos. But I do think, John Dole on YouTube said his voice is always like that. Yes, he seems like he's a little bit wasted. He's kind of slurring. But I also think,
I think he's crying. I've seen a lot of clips of him, and he definitely seems like his voice is breaking.
Yeah. And he's just trying to kind of come clean and be honest. And the other thing that I think this exposes, because I keep on watching this and I've been thinking, if a Zionist, if a Jewish American who believes that we have, that Israel has to do everything it's doing, and the justification of murdering and starving children and bombing hospitals and killing journalists is, if that person were coming to him crying, saying, why can't I bomb hospitals? I mean, I just feel, if they were to, what would Ritchie Torres say? Ritchie Torres to Adam was like, this is pretty emotional for you. I could see this is kind of emotional. I don't know. I feel like you're railroading me. Yeah, of course he wouldn't. He'd be like, God, he'd hold him. He'd stop down. He'd like pray with him. He'd have a moment and be like, thank you for sharing this and bearing your soul to me. Because Zionists and people who, obviously Ritchie Torres being one of them, only has room in their heart and head for one kind of Jewish American. And that is the kind that supports Israel no matter what.
Well, that's like what I was saying before about, like, I have all these Jewish friends who, like, their parents, like, will have to go to an insane asylum if they speak up too much. Like, they're so worked up and so anxious. And, like, that's, again, what I really like about this clip is he says, like, I'm hurting my family. I'm having family members that are going to be so disappointed in me for saying this on this huge platform, but I have to do it because of my conscience.
Yeah.
And like, I grew up in an area that's very Jewish, and like all of the New York metro area is very Jewish. And I can see through all of my friends, like, they're anti-Zionist, but maybe their grandma lives in Israel. And so, like, it is really like personal and hard for people to talk about it. Or like, if your parents, they're in a community where everyone's Zionist, you're going to be that embarrassing kid. Oh my gosh. And maybe their parents' friends will stop talking to them. Like, there is a lot of pressure. And so that's why it's so brave of him to do that.
Northside 5 on Twitch. My mother was like that. We were arguing for months after October 7th. And the crazy thing is, one day she flipped and started agreeing with me. I mean, I think that the other interesting thing about Jewish Americans here is that Israel can be a large part of your upbringing, but it's not the totality of your upbringing.
Right.
And I think listening to Adam say, it's not just a blind love or trust in this nation state. It actually is much more about learning from the Holocaust and saying never again means never again for anyone. And that, this is a faith, right? This is love it or hate it. Most religions are based on, doing no harm and, loving thy neighbor. And, obviously, again, whether or not they make good on it, I'm just saying, like, so I think that American Jews are really in this struggle for their own identity.
And a lot of people, they only know about boomers. They only know about pro-Israel Jewish people. They haven't heard from millennials who feel like that. And by the way, that's how I learned about Palestine. Like, years ago, I had a friend and he was like really into like wearing the keffiyeh and stuff. And I was like, this white person seems too interested in this. What's going on?
Right.
And so then I started asking like all my Jewish friends one-on-one, like, what do you think of this? And everyone told me stories just like Adam's, that I went on Birthright or I did a semester abroad, and the stuff I saw
That's what he says. He says he went to the West Bank, which is not Gaza. Hamas is not there, and people are living two separate lives. I mean,
yes.
And Richie Torres, clearly, he's asked in this interview whether he's visited, the West Bank. He said he went to Ramallah. Well, Ramallah is like a city. You know what I mean? Like things are going to look super normal in Ramallah because it's not it's not places where settlers are killing people, including Americans. And I think the other thing is like, this is so gross for me to say, but I'm like, I think someone like Ritchie Torres, who should absolutely be primaried and who's likely doing all of this because he's scared he's going to be. But I'm like, I watched this interview and I'm like, oh, I think Ritchie Torres is just a dumbass. Like, and that is very,
hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's really real that like people who are dumb get preyed upon by, the Zionist lobby, the pro-Israel lobby, because they're like, hey, buddy, you know nothing about this issue. You didn't maybe grow up with a lot of, Jewish Americans, or you didn't even talk about it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know about this issue. Do you want to give me a lot of money to continue not knowing about this issue? Sounds good to me. Like, it doesn't seem relevant to them. And yet it absolutely is. So it's October 7th was both, it's been a gravy train for people like Ritchie Torres, but it is a curse, and it should be a curse. And we are in a city and in a district. His district went to Zoran, who is pro-Palestine, but in a way that isn't like, that's not his number 1 to 10 issue. He just believes in human rights. And Jewish Americans voted for him. So
exactly.
Yeah, man, it's good for Adam to get the interview. Honestly, good for Ritchie Torres to even do the interview, even though I can't believe what a droid he was in that entire experience. Just very unfeeling.
Also, what I want to say, part of what I was like, yes, thank God, like loved this interview, is I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of comedians who have their interview shows, and it's like, why aren't you ever interviewing a Democrat and asking them, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Like,
yeah.
And if you're not doing that, then it looks like you're doing propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, if you're famous enough that you could get people like that on your show and like ask them, hey, why aren't you saying free Palestine? Why aren't you fighting for universal health care? Like, people with interview shows should be doing that, especially if they're going to pretend they're left-leaning on social media.
100%. Mary Houlihan, thank you so much for joining me, for your time. I am going to let you go, but first tell people where they can find you, where they can watch you.
Hey guys, follow me. I have a YouTube. It's Mary Houlihan, and my Twitch is Mary Houli. I'm Mary Houli on most things.
Mary Houli.
And I'm gonna do some shows in Providence and Philly and New Orleans and Atlanta. So check my social media to see when those are.
Mary Houli. Mary, thank you for joining. And I
you
really
so
need
much.
to watch your live Twitch show because I want to learn how to paint and like relieve stress.
Yeah.
And also paint. I'm never going to paint. Like, there's no way I'm painting like that. But, whatever. Just not my strong suit. Thank you so much for being here. You're awesome. Take good care. We have with me, I'm very, very excited to bring in my next guest, who has a new article out called "A Dark Money Group is Secretly Funding High-Profile Democratic Influencers." Let me get the official. Not only did she write this, but she's a best-selling author of the book, Extremely Online: The Untold Story of Fame, Influence, and Power on the Internet. She's the host of the Power User podcast and the founder of the tech and online culture newsletter that everyone needs to subscribe to. If you're not, what are you doing? It's called User Magazine. Please welcome Taylor Lorenz. Taylor, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, so glad to have you. Thanks for being here. I've been thinking about you, obviously, because you had this polemic article. You had an article out in Wired, and I just wanted to let you know that no matter how much people are talking about you, you're not the biggest Taylor of the week.
I know.
Is that rough?
I'm never the biggest Taylor. Unfortunately, I will never be, and I've accepted it.
You'll never be the biggest Taylor of the week, man. It's upsetting. But no, obviously we're talking about the engagement, but who cares? I care more about this piece. It was excellent. And I want to talk to you all about it and then give some of my thoughts, because I know you got to bounce, because you are in it. You've been in it from as soon as this was published. But just tell me about specifically, like from the beginning, like, why did you think that this was an important story to write about the dark money that is funding some Democratic influencers?
Sure. So I have reported extensively on influence schemes, like you mentioned, in my best-selling book, not to be the promo girl, but Extremely Online, which is a history of the content creator industry. I write extensively about political influence and just influence schemes generally. I've reported on, I covered the first Trump campaign back in 2016 on the campaign trail. I was in the room at the Hilton the night that he was elected with all of the other right-wing influencers. I was at the Deplorable, their event that they all celebrated. So I've been covering the rise of right-wing influence operations for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I've also covered some left-wing ones. So I covered, for instance, Biden briefing, TikTokers about the war in Ukraine. I've covered, the FDA or CDC, I can't remember, the government organization working, in 2021 to push the COVID vaccines with influencers, like all of these different initiatives, like public health initiatives. And I've written a lot about their role in elections. I wrote a lot about, the ways Democrats were leveraging, or really not leveraging very effectively, online influence throughout Kamala Harris's campaign. So this is something that's about, I would say probably 80% of what I do is report on the right and the far right. Mm-hmm. But then, I of course cover Democrats too. And this is interesting to me because there's been a lot of money from the donor world flowing into the influencer space. I think finally, after losing several cycles over, the Democrats have recognized the internet. They're like, wait a minute, who are all these people on you? Do we need to go on podcasts? Like, they're starting to realize it. And so these donors are reading these New York Times headlines about groups like Chorus, for instance, which Ken Bensinger announced in the New York Times months ago, and was like, and they're pouring money into these things. Mm-hmm. And we have yet to sort of see how these programs are structured, how they play out, who's operating them, who's funding them, et cetera. Teddy Schleifer has done some great work. Kat at the Washington Post has done some great work. There's many reporters covering this. I know I'm like a lightning rod, so when I cover it, like there's drama, but like I am not actually the only one that has even written about these sorts of schemes. But I thought this was a really interesting. I thought this was a really relevant one because it's been a very high. Chorus has been very high profile since it's launched.
And so it is about this, what they call themselves like a creator incubator program, co-founded by Brian Tyler Cohen, and who is the other person?
There's Stuart Perlmutter, I think, co-founded it. There's a group of them that sort of co-founded it together. Brian Tyler Cohen is definitely like the main, he's sort of the public face of a lot of their efforts.
Right. And so what you found out, and I think this has been sort of part of the, some of the influencers who were named or pushing back on, you found out that actually they weren't allowed to disclose that much about Chorus, and certainly not about,
So let me clear this up. I think you're getting confused. So one thing that they've done is very successfully is try to conflate Chorus, which has always been public. Again, read about their launch in the New York Times. I've also done public reporting on Chorus. I wrote another story about them a couple months ago. Chorus has never been a secret. This funding scheme was not reported. And their ties to the 1630 fund, this very, very big liberal dark money group, was never reported. So when these influencers say, well, I've always been able, look, here I am on the Chorus website. Yeah, no one's disputing that your affiliation with Chorus wasn't public, but you accepting, up to $8,000 a month, that is what was not disclosed. And you signing a contract that has various clauses in it, that was not reported on before. And so what they're doing is they're getting online and they're sort of trying to conflate that so that people who don't really know and probably didn't read the article are seeing this and they're like, well, I thought this was always public.
Right.
Not the part that we reported. If it was public, it wouldn't be news. And I actually thought that they would, I'm shocked to this day that they didn't circumvent my story and kill my story by just, when I reached out to comment weeks ago, they could have just called up the Washington Post and done a promotional type piece. Like, we're excited to announce our first class of funding. You know what I mean? That's what I thought would happen. And they
that
didn't.
they would say that they would sort of embrace like, hey, we're funded by the 1630 fund. Yes, it's a dark money group. So
no, what I thought that they would do is call up like Washington Post or something else and be like, hey, look, we have this amazing new funding scheme for creators. Oh yeah, 1630 fund. Yes, it's maybe a line at the end about the dark money, but don't pay attention to that. What's really amazing is with a bunch of promotional quotes and materials and stuff. Like they could have preempted my story and done that. But instead, they went this route where like their creators are instead just like lying, smearing me, calling like fake news, and really doing actually the MAGA playbook to discredit media, which is terrifying. And I've written before about how sort of Democrats have embraced this anti-media, anti-journalistic playbook. In previous instances.
I do want to talk about the reaction because I think it's very telling and important. But just tell me about the 1630 fund from what you understand. Yeah. Which is the fund that is backing Chorus.
So in the article, in the contracts, they call Chorus a project of the 1630 fund. They have this fiscal relationship. The 1630 fund is a very well-known group that you can go read tons about. It really became quite large in the wake of Citizens United, as a lot of these big dark money groups is. And dark money just means like there's not a lot of disclosure. So we don't know like there's people that give millions of dollars to these groups. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their motivations are. There's just not transparency. So overall, Democrats have always actually traditionally said that these groups are a bad thing because they overwhelmingly help the right, the Koch network and all that. Like they traffic in dark money all the time. 1630 fund sort of emerged as a liberal response to that, and they've given lots of money. I think it was according to Politico, it was like 400 million they distributed in 2020. They've really gotten a lot of power since Trump's first term.
Almost as like in a reaction to Citizens United, but not trying to overturn Citizens United, but use the very methods that the right does, which is dark money groups, to kind of fight fire with fire, right? To do the exact same thing. And
on a smaller scale, of course, because the right, it's nothing compared to what the right has, but yes.
Yes. And so, I think there's a lot of questions I have, but I do think that maybe let's just get out like the things that we've heard, like, oh, this story wasn't fact checked, this is wrong, What was the fact checking process for your Wired piece? And I know there have not been corrections issues.
No, there are no corrections on the story. I know. I love this idea that Wired is just like my personal blog that I just publish on. The story went through the same editorial review that Wired is known for. It had many different editors looking at it. It went through legal review. It went through everything. Every fact is sort of substantiated by reporting material. We don't just have the contracts, like we mentioned this in the story, but this is backed up by Zoom call recordings, text messages, emails, like internal emails, messages where the creators are themselves discussing the nature of the contract with each other, letters that they sent to the company. Like we have a lot. And so we gather all that reporting material and put together a story. Now, I think a lot of people, especially the young ones, I'm so old, but on TikTok, like they're used to this like receipts, like drama tube culture. And they're like, post the receipts, like post the Zoom call, post the text messages, post the, contracts. We can't do that without revealing our sources. And that would be horrible and detrimental. And we would never do that. So, when journalism outlets, and I think this is a huge problem that we're seeing where people don't trust journalism outlets because they don't trust the reporters to have verified sources, right? And so they think, if you're not posting the contracts, then you have something to hide. What we have said from the jump is that we would love for these creators, the small parts of the contract that the creators have posted have actually validated our reporting, but we don't know if the contracts are watermarked by spacing. They have identifying info in them in some cases. So we can't
people were getting different. Some people were getting $8,000 a month, and some people were definitely not getting $8,000 a month.
Right.
I'm sure
There's different tiers, although I think there's commonality. We do have several contracts from several tiers, but yeah, it's just we can't post our source material, guys. That's unfortunately not like how journalism is. But I would encourage these creators to post it if they want to really refute it. Then I encourage them to post whatever they would like.
So the question around Chorus is, yes, some people were very open about it. I've talked to people who were part of the program.
Open about Chorus.
Yes.
They were not open about this program, which has never been reported on.
So the actual, like, the culling of the 90 influencers, interesting. I've been told that it was to protect the identity of some of the people if they were like creators in red states. Let's put that aside.
What to protect the identity? Like, the point is, you're taking undisclosed political money.
Now, here's my question: is did they know? Because if you're participating in this program, were the creators told, here's where we get our funding?
So in the contract, it mentions like the funding, stuff. And actually there's one creator who's been on TikTok recently and which I didn't, he's not my source. I know everybody is sort of saying this, that he's my source and everything. He actually has some sort of level of security clearance, and he received this offer, and he's been on TikTok talking about that he had a lawyer review it. And these lawyers have, a lot of these influencers generally have lawyers and agents and managers and stuff. But he was saying that he couldn't accept the contract because with security clearance, you don't know the people. Like with this funding structure, you didn't know who's funding you, and so he could potentially lose his security clearance because what if it's some foreign actor? What if it's whatever? I don't know if it would be a foreign actor.
So that's why they didn't accept.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's because there wasn't enough transparency around that. And so, do I think some creators honestly just read the contract and didn't sign it very much? Potentially. But what I would say to those creators is that you knew that you were accepting money, and you knew that money was a politically affiliated money, which you didn't disclose. And I think anytime you have influencers accepting money without disclosure, no matter what, it's bad. And anytime you have influencers accepting money for some political purposes, and you're also not disclosing that money, I think that that's a huge disservice, especially when you're a content creator that's positioning yourself as a news source or a journalist online. Because I will tell you, as a journalist, you have to disclose your funding. Otherwise, imagine I'm taking tens of thousands of dollars from some political group, people have the right to know that. I can claim all day, okay, it doesn't affect my content, I would say this stuff anyway, but the public should know that. Again, we want more transparency in our political media ecosystem.
And I think this is sort of where there's a couple of broader themes that your article really touches on, and the discussions that it has kicked off are an example of the fact that we actually need to be having these conversations. And I think one of them is this line between what is an influencer, right? The question of like, and you as someone who's written about it, it's like, it's very, I'm assuming, nebulous, but that I think that, I would not call myself a journalist personally. I have been a journalist before. I'm more of a correspondent. I'm more of like a producer, and certainly a podcast host and a comedian. I try to be accurate. I am upfront, but I wouldn't call myself a journalist, and I definitely wouldn't call myself an influencer, but I think we are also in this age where those things are collapsing. And so what's interesting is I would also not call an influencer. However, you are someone with an online platform that's huge, and you've got a growing YouTube channel, and and so you have
I also started independent blogging. Yeah. And I've written so much about these tensions, by the way, especially when it comes to news content creators.
Yes. And so that's what I think is sort of this like the nebulous kind of like area that probably is part of why you're receiving hate, and is also probably why these kinds of funds are choosing influencers who aren't actually journalists, right? These are not independent journalists. They are, they're maybe hot take machines, or they're funny, or whatever whatever they're doing. I'm not saying they're not bringing added value. I did want to go back to what you said, because, from some limited folks I've spoken to, it seems like they said, well, Chorus didn't tell us what to say. And this has been another sort of sticking point, is what did Chorus have control over or not? And in one of the, posted contracts, as you mentioned, this creator puts up the contract, and in it says that they must disclose to the Chorus newsroom personnel any engagements with government officials or others on topics related to Chorus's policy agenda that the contractor arranges through other means. In other words, kind of, if you're going to interface with politicians, that's got to come through us. And they, in fact, had set up a whole newsroom where you have, politicians who can come and be interviewed by Chorus participants. It all sounds cool. It brings me to sort of a third point, but right there, you sort of see that, like, okay, if you were talking about broadly policy agendas, they have to be in line with chorus. And if you're interviewing politicians, you kind of got to vet them through chorus. I think there's differing opinion on, from what I've heard, the extent to which they actually did that. Like maybe they didn't get every piece of content, vetted by chorus, or, like there wasn't a lot of,
well, the creators can speak
punishment.
They can say all day there wasn't enforcement of it, whatever. I think that it's funny that you bring up that video, because that girl in the video is claiming that she's sort of debunking, and then she puts the actual language of the contract on screen behind her, which confirms our exact reporting on it. So it's very funny. Every time they share these things, it's like it confirms more of our reporting. I listen, when these creators say like, I wasn't punished, there wasn't enforcement on this. Okay. I mean, they're a month, 2 months into the program, they could totally be telling the truth, right? But I think that the point is that they signed a contract agreeing to specific terms, and contracts are theoretically enforceable, right? And we don't know like how this program would have played out a year from now, 2 years from now. If this is all undisclosed, we don't know. Like this is why I'm advocating for more transparency, because if you don't disclose anything and then say they do start enforcing things, like it's eroding trust in our political system. So, we nowhere in our article do we say like, oh, and they're given sentences to read on camera. No. But exactly that part that you just read, right, where it says like in line with Chorus's agenda or whatever. I asked Chorus, I sent Chorus multiple requests for comment. I said like, what is your policy agenda? What do you, because it's some of that language is quite vague, and you could see how these creators could interpret it different ways. And again, I also just want to say that we spoke to multiple content creators within this very program. I know that they've been very loud online, many of them, but we got this, we heard from people in this program prior to publication. So we're also reflecting how they interpreted, these contracts.
Sure. I did actually, there's two questions I have. One of them, I want to talk about sort of this question of dark money in general. And I also want to talk about the personal attacks. And I need to play this, I apologize, this little piece from Brian Tyler Cohen, who is one of the co-founders of Chorus, who opens a video responding to your article, calling you an internet troll, openly saying at risk of giving an internet troll more cred or more shine or whatever. And then he says this.
And in fact, it becomes clear who her efforts help when you hear stuff like this.
Genuinely, I kind of like Taylor Lorenz because I know that she actually believes what she says.
Totally
Do you get what I'm
agree.
saying?
So yeah, I generally don't align myself with friends of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. I continue to believe that the left needs massive investments into the independent media space.
Are you friends with Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens because they like that you seem genuine?
They're making fun of me in that clip. They're making fun of me of the fact that I still believe in COVID. By the way, we're in an ongoing pandemic and COVID is surging again right now. Everyone should be wearing a mask. And that's what they're making fun of in that clip. They're not like, we love Taylor. She's our friend. We hang out with her. I've never met, actually I met Tucker once and he wanted to take a picture with me to make fun of me. Tucker Carlson is responsible for my parents being driven out of their home in the middle of the night because they've been swatted many times. He has driven so much hate and harassment towards me that there is a literal, I think it's NYU, some university did an entire case study on it. I think Institute for Strategic Dialogue did one too. The amount of vitriol that I have received from my critical reporting on both of them is just absurd. The idea that I'm friends, that would be like I'm buddy with, Chaya Raichik from Libs of TikTok. It's just such a
just because you interviewed
misrepresentation of my relationship, which is quite antagonistic, or Tim Pool, right? Who took out an entire billboard in Times Square to call me a liar and also, put massive efforts towards this huge smear campaign against me. I have reported so critically on the right for years. And, these people that are like, well, she was at the inauguration. Yeah, for Rolling Stone reporting on TikTok and TikTok's influence, on the Trump administration. It's very silly and it's intentionally bad faith. And I think it's extra egregious because I have suffered the exact same type of smear campaign that Brian Tyler Cohen and his little buddies are running on me right now to discredit me and call me a liar and all of this stuff and cause a lot of material harm to me. Like, I have dealt with that from the right for years. And it's so gross to see them leverage the exact MAGA playbook.
But I did want to ask, because I do think that the reaction can often be more revelatory. And as someone, and I'm going to be 100%, when I read the article, I was like, this is a story. But also I thought, there was that fear part of me, which was like, oh no, what's the impact on this? Like, don't we need, incubator programs? And yes, fight fire with fire. And then I saw some of the reactions of people who have not been open about being in the program, but who I clearly know were in the program because of their reaction. And then things like this, calling you an internet troll, saying that because Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson's yes, we're mockingly saying they liked you, that somehow you're friends with them. It's so bad faith. And you're absolutely right. It is, when people say blue MAGA, you guys, this is what we're talking about. I have faced it down constantly, especially when I talk about Gaza, right? And people are like, you never even wanted Kamala to win anyway. And it's like, you honestly don't know who I am and you've never listened to my coverage. And I am not a journalist. So it wouldn't be fair to say to Taylor, you didn't want Kamala to win anyway, because Taylor is a journalist and she was covering all of this. She covers this from a journalistic perspective. Yes, you have your opinions. And
also, can I just say something?
Yeah.
Obviously, I would prefer Kamala Harris to be president instead of Donald Trump. That's so stupid for anybody to say that. I'm not very political. I'm not a registered Democrat. I'm not a rah Democratic Party person. Obviously, I'm very critical of the Democratic Party, but it's just these people that are like, oh, she's a wrecker. She's very silly, very silly. Yeah. I criticize Trump constantly. And you know what, who else has done great reporting on the Trump administration and specifically Doge is Wired. Wired, I would argue, has done, part of the reason I pitched them this story is because they have done, in my opinion, the best reporting on the intersection of politics and the internet and technology, in our entire media landscape. They are peak. There's people like McKenna Kelly. McKenna Kelly is the number one journalist covering content creators, influencers, the internet and politics. She's the OG. I cover that as part of my beat, but I also cover entertainment industry stuff. That's McKenna's whole world. She works at Wired. There's all these amazing journalists at Wired. And so when these people say Wired magazine lies and they have no editorial standards and they're fake news and all that stuff, you're eroding trust in a media institution that does phenomenally important work just because you personally don't like me calling out your favorite influencer. It's really corrosive.
Well, I actually wanted to just tell people in mid-convo, because I know you have to go in a little bit, but to please go to Taylor's YouTube channel and watch her almost hour-long video, Secret Democrat Influencer Funding Programs Revealed, because I want to talk about the bigger issues here, to me, which are the kinds of people who were chosen for the program and the kinds of content that they created. And I think it speaks to what you've said in your, when you laid this out on your YouTube page, basically about the Democratic Party writ large believes that they have only a messaging problem. And it's interesting coming from, I'm curious about you saying that, because you're someone who's been very pro, supporting and paying influencers and paying people to do this, you have to play in this world if you're going to be in politics, because the right has been doing it.
Yeah.
But also, picking and choosing the gatekeepers or having only people who will have certain questions for these politicians is very revealing. And so I see the creators and I'm like, I know I've seen what your content is. You don't speak about Gaza. You don't have an adversarial conversation with a Democratic politician. And again, I'm someone who's like, I have people on to talk about the great work they do, but at some point in that interview, I'm going to push back on some shit that they did or some money that they received. That's just what I believe my job is as a not journalist, but an interviewer, like a good interviewer, right? And you're not seeing that from these accounts. It does feel like, and I think you well documented the ways that the Biden-Harris campaign curated the influencers that they will allow into their sphere around the election, and that effectively you're kind of drawing a through line, even though they lost the election, you're drawing a through line until today. And what's, the fact that it doesn't seem like they've learned on the message. They still just think it's about messaging and getting the right influencers to sort of applaud a party that is more unpopular than Republicans right now. Somehow more unpopular.
I think the lesson that a lot of Democrats took from losing so badly in November is that Kamala Harris needs to go on more podcasts. And if we just have a few, and if we fund a few more podcasts, that's going to fix it. And it is the fact that actually the Democrats continue to embrace this honestly, this like billionaire, sort of pro-billionaire, like elite kind of policy agenda that doesn't help working people, that, they're willing to throw marginalized people under the bus, like trans people, disabled people, lie about COVID being over, to force people back to work with no labor protections, things like this. Dismantle public health, which Biden did a lot of, among so many other things. I spoke to a young climate activists, for this story that I did last year for the Washington Post, who felt like they were blacklisted from the White House after speaking out about, Biden failing to live up to his promises on climate, and how that wasn't really even a conversation with Kamala Harris. And, there's just been so many issues that it seems like the Democrats simply don't care about. They care about appealing to these wealthy billionaire donors. And I think that that's a huge problem. And I think that they have a fundamental policy problem. And we know that because look at other candidates that are embracing more populist messaging and populist policies, I should say, rather, because it's not just messaging. Like Zohran Mamdani, right? Like has a huge amount of support. And look at how the Democratic Party treats him. Like they don't actually want candidates and people that resonate on the internet and resonate with young people and resonate with young men. They want people that they can control, that are just going to put a new spin on their same, losing policies.
What's interesting is like I got an interview with Zohran before he won the nomination, and that wasn't through any gatekeeper. That was just my producer reaching out. You can just do the work to reach out yourself to try to get these interviews. And it is also really, it's deafening how silent some of the creators in the program and Brian Tyler Cohen himself have been when it comes to his candidacy, when it comes to Zohran in general. And then, on top of that, you're like, Brian will sort of say, look, this is an incubated program. We're trying to help people and get them paid. And I absolutely personally believe.
Disclose it.
Right. And also the kinds of people that you're choosing. You are effectively being a gatekeeper, and you have also been you've been silent on Gaza, like as a habit. Like that's the way you roll. And so I think it's, again, we have to really talk about like that, the gatekeeper part of this.
Yeah. And I want to say something on that, because these creators, especially, I know Gaza is such a hot button issue and other things too, but like there are 90 creators in this program. We were able to confirm a couple dozen, but there are a lot who we still don't know, because again, this is a sprawling program, and we know all the creators that accepted the most money, but there are also many that, accepted lower tiers of money, and we're not 100. We couldn't 100% confirm. So I have said from the jump, like, we should be able to transparently evaluate this cohort. If you feel like this is a very diverse cohort in terms of their stance on Gaza or in terms of whatever, then release the names of the 90 creators in their program and release them from their NDAs and allow them to publicly talk about the program. That way we can look at the list of 90 influencers and make whatever, judgment we want to make about how they're choosing with the ideology of their cohort class. Right now, we don't know the true sort of ideological breakdown of that class because we don't have the transparency and the names. And throughout all of this, as they're hurling these ridiculous, insults at me, they're not doing anything to make this program more transparent. They updated their website a few times to say, like, actually, we're nonpartisan, which is hilarious because the whole premise of it is to help the Democrat, like it's to push Democrats sort of massively, it's to help the Democrats with their sort of like internet problem. But again, like we should know what creators are in this program, and we should know, who accepted payment, and like they should disclose that. It's not that hard.
Here was a moment that I thought was kind of telling from that same creator. I don't know their name, I'm sorry, but who sort of released and had a very long, it's sort of 10-minute breakdown about why they took this money after they had misgivings about it. Quote tweeted by John Favreau of Crooked Media saying.
No. That's Ali O'Brien. She's not being transparent. That's the whole point. In that whole monologue that she does, she's not talking about the actual funding thing that we reported on.
Sure.
She's going on about the stuff that's already out there. So I haven't
known.
seen a single creator actually talk about the private, aside from sharing she shared like a tiny screenshot, but she's not, I would say that she's still not being
she
transparent.
responds to your article, and I felt like this was deeply naive and telling.
This program is imperfect, but I think that I can do good from it. And I think that the threat of fascism is so big right now that there might need to be an order of operations, right? We need to get rid of the fascist threat of Donald Trump trying to take everything over. And then once me and us buddies are in power, then we get rid of the dark money mechanism so that nobody in the future has to do this through a dark money funder who's the only one willing to fund something in the future.
All we got to do, Taylor, is take the dark money now, and then once we're in power, we will prohibit
I'm
dark
sure.
money.
Yes.
That's
of
how
course.
most revolutions work.
Yes. This is something that the Democrats...
Once you'd have an armed uprising, you demilitarize, and nobody's
Right.
allowed to have a gun. Don't we all know how
Right.
this works throughout
Of
history?
course.
So this was just like, it was so painful because I'm like, I understand how you might think about this. And again, I think broadly, I am coming from this as a much more like call in, like just me as a person, as a personality. I want to call these people in. And I know, I don't want them to feel irrevocably put on blast or like that people are turning on them. But it's just like, this is very naive and it is untrue. And I also will say that to me, there's one other thing we need to talk about, which is that people are calling themselves progressive and leftist because they don't want to say the word liberal. Why? Because they fucking burn that word. Because liberals fucking suck. And everybody knows liberals suck. Because they don't believe in anything. And yes, they take hand over fist corporate cash or dark money. That's what liberals do. And so what's even more disingenuous is a lot of these more centrist creators are being housed under a program that is calling themselves leftist. Like what they don't talk about. Zoran, Palestine, socialism, the fact that the two-party system is fucked. Like they're bootlicking like Gavin Newsom and like, yeah, I believe in redistricting here in California. I think that's great. Do I want him to be president? Fuck no. He's out here sweeping homeless encampments. I don't believe we need that if we're going to win. And I do think it has to do with the fact that both the party and the media apparatus are taking this kind of shady ass money. So I deeply disagree with this way to freedom that is being paved here. And this sort of like, but we have to fight fire with fire. It's like, nah, man, you don't. You tried it and you fucking lost.
Well, you don't have to do that in secret, right? Like, if these creators, again, which I thought they would do, I thought that they would preempt my story. I still need to understand, like, it's shocking to me because they could have really done that. Like, they could have done this splashy, like, we're announcing our funding. Maybe they're saying, look, like, there's an argument, right? There's an argument to be made. I don't agree with that argument, but it's like, look, hey guys, we are taking this money, but unlike the right, like we disclose our funding and we're letting you know. And we think that we feel comfortable taking this funding because we just want to, use all the resources we can to fight, fascism, XYZ. Now, again, I am not like sympathetic to that argument because I think that like what we should do is work to dismantle this like system of like dark money in politics. And also like, I think that anytime you're playing this game that's run by billionaires, like you're like, throwing like it's like droplets compared to like a waterfall that the right wing has. Like you can't actually compete because the right has like a level of billionaire funding that like no one on the left ever will have. So but again, if say you did want to make that argument, then why is it so secret? Like that's
right. It's okay to disclose it. Like,
if they had disclosed it, then we could have these deeper conversations.
Sure.
But they still, even to this day, are not fully disclosing the terms of the contract. And I do think that people should know. Like when I joined the Omidyar, reporting fellowship or whatever, which is not funded by dark money at all, like I disclose it immediately. I'm like, hey, I'm part of this program. Here's where you can read more about the program. Here's the information down to how much money I'm receiving. It's
right.
all
Just because
public.
he's a billionaire doesn't mean it is secretive. And
it's not dark money. Billionaires fund dark money groups.
I mean, what's interesting, right, is like, yes, I mean, it's funny because like George Soros is like, I would argue, I don't believe in billionaires, so I'll just get that out of the way. But he's like one of the better ones.
Mm-hmm.
He's funded, projects in the West Bank, even Black Lives Matter stuff. Like he has funded great things. And I think Open Society Foundation is arguably still out there, like, funding people. And I think people should get that money, but they disclose it. It's so there is a reason why folks are bundling stuff in these dark money groups. But yeah, I guess my question to you is, as someone who is, I think, been successful at being an independent journalist, has, an awesome following, I think it is hard to start out. It's hard to know what to do. And yet, so what are your thoughts on, not advice, more, what would you like to see? Like, what kinds of incubator programs, networks, what do you think do maybe pass the smell test? Or is it simply about transparency? Tell me.
I mean, I'm a believer in transparency in government overall. So you're never going to convince me that some like secretive program is really the way to go with a lot of this stuff, because I think it backfires. And we've seen this actually time and time again on the right, because the right, again, as I've reported, has been running these schemes for years, and often journalists find out about it and it sort of discredits them, but not really, because no one on the right has any morals or convictions. No one really cares. But, I would love to see creators get more funding. I would love to see the Democrats actually embrace new media. To do that, though, they need to stop trying to control it. And that is what they are addicted to. The Democratic Party is addicted to this top-down control and access. And you saw that at the DNC, convention last year in Chicago, when they booted Hassan Piker out, when they revoked the press credentials. They approved press credentials for multiple content creators for multiple days. Those content creators spoke out about, the genocide or the wrong thing or whatever. Suddenly those press credentials go away for the remaining days. That is just completely unacceptable, in my opinion. And so, I think that they need to, even before they worry about the internet, fix their unpopular policy agenda. Because I think, Zoran and some other, forgot the other guy's name, oh my God, the one in Maine, the new Graham something, the new one that's getting all the hype. Like, there are these more populist like candidates that are speaking to the people, that are representing like the public's view on, the genocide and things like that, it's their policies that are popular. Yeah. And these democratic policies of whatever like the billionaires want, and squeezing and telling the left like vote blue no matter who, cycle and cycle and cycle over and over and over, while wealth disparity increases. And again, they do nothing, to stop the threat of the ongoing pandemic, help people get health care. Like, what happened to Medicare for all? You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much that they've abandoned.
I agree. And I actually think, I think one of the creators who's been very vociferous and even lobbying critiques, like basically that you're racist. I think
I'm racist because they truly believe the term dark money is racist, and they called me a snow roach, which is hilarious because the majority of creators in this program, the ones that we know, are all white.
But I think this person is it Elizabeth Booker? I don't know who. I don't know what their name is.
I don't think we even need to name some of these people.
No, we don't need. It's fine. But I guess, I really bristle at calling your reporting anti-Black or racist.
Of course.
Because speaking to the issues that you're talking about, like, this person was like, oh, the Democratic Party has an anti-Blackness problem. And it's like, yeah, but it's not about creators, or it's not about like representation. It's about that there's been nothing done on criminal justice reform or prison and police reform at all, that Black immigrants have been left high and dry, that no one was going to Springfield to help the Haitian migrants as they were bearing down the wrath of fucking Proud Boys. Like, this is the problem. I mean, disproportionately Black Americans are facing all the things the rest of us are facing, but times whatever, like times what structural racism is.
It's obscene.
So like miss me with this is an anti-Black smear. I'm just like,
it's just 2015
not gonna fly, y'all.
Tumblr bullshit that it's like, I can't even, I was shocked to see that, and I had to laugh because it is just the most. And also, it's like, even if the program was 100% Black women, like it reminds me of that, that like meme that's always viral. That's like the bombs dropping down on, some person in a third world country, and then it's saying like the next one might be sent by a woman or a LGBTQ person. Like, it's meaningless it's meaning. It's just nonsense. It's ridiculous and it's meaningless and it's so silly that you have to laugh at it but it's so desperate. And again, it is this type of logic that like these liberals that have no concept of like class solidarity or, you know, like a structural power, like that's the type of like meaningless bullshit that they fall for.
Yeah.
And I can't believe in 2025 anyone is still falling for it because again, it is like that is just
I actually think it's ringing a lot more hollow. I mean, I think that when the dust is settling around this, I think it is raising. Look, I think this is a really important article to write and to read, and I say that as someone who read it and felt immediately like, oh shit, I don't want to tear down other, you know, progressive creators. I want to stop fascism too. But for me, just like I believe in politics, we have to keep our side of the street clean. I believe that when it comes to media or influencers or content creation, keep your side of the street clean. What are you standing for? It's so easy to do an orange man bad. I have a literal joke segment called Orange Man Bad, basically making fun of libs who only are like, let's invoke the orange man and everything's, yeah, man. But the real thing is, how the fuck are we here? And it's because Democrats have completely dropped the ball and do not have a message that speaks to people, and no amount of like, you know, spicy clapbacks or like funny videos or whatever, getting Zoran Mamdani's street team is going to help you when you don't walk the walk, when you are actually also like a Ritchie Torres, you're just kind of a siphon for corporate money or like a foreign billionaire. And final point, I'll let you go, is the actual left, people who do talk about Palestine, are socialists, like very much, you know, all this. They have also taken money from what I believe are shady, outfits. I don't know to the degree that they've disclosed them, but Peter Thiel has invested in leftist creators. David Sachs has invested in leftist creators. There are people that we know, that everyone here listening to my voice, like you might know and love, who've accepted billionaire money. And you could be of two minds about that. Well, I like them. And so as long as they didn't have say over their content, hey, get that bag. For me personally, if someone like a Thiel approached me, I would immediately say, fuck, what am I doing that shows that I am like kind of a ripe mark for your money? Like, what is my overall message to my audience? Why am I being chosen for this? And I think the same thing for liberals, and I think the same thing for leftists. When you receive money, you have to really think, is there a reason I'm being chosen? Is it because I do or don't critique someone, right?
And I think, I just want to say, like, I think, like, I cover civil liberties a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I cover a lot about free speech online, civil liberties online. Like, that is something I have never received money from any of these libertarian groups, but it's something that, like, libertarian people care a lot about. It's like me, a few libertarian groups, and then, like, the Electronic Frontier Foundation or something,
Yeah.
Again, I've never received that money, but I know other content creators like in the space that like do work with some of these more libertarian orgs or whatever, and are comfortable doing that. And I think that's fine. Like in some way, like I have no problem with people building bridges across the aisle to advance very specific like policy agendas that will ultimately help like leftists. Mm-hmm. I think that the transparency is the key. And like you said, the billionaire stuff too is like, and being like, why is this happening? Like, what is this? And informing your audience and bringing your audience into those discussions. Like the transparency is the thing. And I think also like rather than focusing and doing this witch hunt around the content creators on the internet, like where these, content creators can then act like I'm being victimized. Sure. Like, I think we should focus on these structural systems, push 1630 to like, add like what other influencer programs are they funding? Are they funding anything? Are they doing anything else in this space? Like support journalists, Teddy Schleifer, who's reported so much on this. Other journalists that also report on this stuff, and also just like
journalists in general. I mean, that's the other thing is like you as an independent journalist, Teddy Schleifer, who you mentioned in your longer piece. I'm thinking of my friend, Costanza Eliana, who's been on this show, who's basically reporting on the attacks, the federal attacks on Los Angeles, kind of in the streets by herself, who's like about to, I'm sure she wouldn't mind saying, who feels very disheartened because there's no money in independent journalism. It is tough and it is a slog. I mean, you see the way like LA Taco is out here doing the work of major newsrooms, doing it better than they're doing.
And we only lose money with stuff like this. And also Teddy's at the New York Times. He doesn't need your money. I just mean that his reporting is very good.
Okay.
I'm sure he's getting paid enough. But I don't like, that's what's so frustrating is like I got so many people unsubscribing from paid like newsletter, like unsubscribes from my paid newsletter because they were like, I hear you're also taking like basically falling for TikTok misinformation and taking it out on me to the point that it completely negated the very small amount of money that I earned for this freelance story that took me months. So there is no real great financial model for independent journalism. And I'm not against creators taking money where they can get it. My problem is disclosure. And I think when it comes to disclosure, yes, we should ask more from the creators we follow. We should also push groups like Chorus, right? The focus here should be on Chorus and 1630 and say, what are you guys doing to make sure that this program you're running is transparent? When are you going to release the list of creators in this program on your website? When are you going to upload the contract that outlines the stipulations they have to agree to be part of this program? And what is your selection criteria for creators that are part of the program? And how are you ensuring that that is equitable? Those are the questions we should be asking rather than going to like Aaron Parnas's comments and being like, you're a shill or whatever. Like that ultimately doesn't move things forward.
No, and I guess I just, a caveat, just as I don't believe people should be smearing Taylor, I really don't think people should be smearing these individual creators. I think none of this is actually productive. I do think, it's interesting, like I meant to say, the last thing is the selection is very key. And a lot of these creators, like I hadn't heard of, they have a small following and I'm like, good for them, whatever. And then you see David Pakman and you're like, in what world is guy who's been on internet as long as Democracy Now! In need of an incubator program? Like that just belies the entire thing. What he has been overwhelmingly is super Zionist, super silent on Palestine. I know it for a fact. I know he is. He wanted me on his show like a year ago and I was like, BT dubs, run up to the election, but I am going to talk about Gaza. Didn't get a call back. Like I was like, okay, fine. There is a reason people are being selected, and it's because they're selective reporting. Midas Touch squarely focused only on domestic politics and others. So anyway, Taylor, it's excellent reporting, and I'm sorry you've had to bear down all of this bullshit. And I think there is something very noble about kind of reporting the stories that are unpopular. You know what I mean? The stories that will probably you'll take heat from. And I think
I want things to be better. That's what drives me crazy. These people are like, oh, you did it to help MAGA. Like, no, I want it because I actually want the Democrats to win. I want the Democrats to be better. Yeah. I would love to be able to, for them to improve their strategies. And I think critical reporting like this helps bring more transparency in the states. And we want to bring transparency to our political media ecosystem.
Donald James says, I joined Lorenz's Patreon because of this reporting. Taylor, what is that Patreon?
It's just Taylor Lorenz at Patreon. I just launched it last month, so I'm getting it off the ground. But I do have a bonus episode of my podcast coming, I think 2 weeks from now. It's going to be my first bonus episode. And I put behind the scenes stuff in there. So yes, I've just launched my Patreon and I'm bear with me because I feel like a boomer because I don't totally know how to post on it sometimes.
Dude, same.
Please give me feedback. But yes, you can support me on Patreon and you can support me on my newsletter. If you don't want the newsletter and you'd rather support my video work, then support me on Patreon. And
the newsletter is usermag.
Usermag.co. It's on
Substack.co. Taylor, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate you. And we'll look out for more articles from Taylor, of course, as always. Colleen Wiley says, are we sure that we can trust that when Francesca says she's sponsored by Sunset Lake CBD, she really isn't sponsored by dark money? I mean, you don't know what's in those gummies. They will give you a full printout and report of all of the testing that they did, which is third-party tested, but we don't know. There could be some Soros money in there, in which case, why isn't it more? All right. And Mosetta Stone, how are my non-chorus paid homies today? Thank you, Chet, please, for giving out a sub on YouTube. Vetras Varna said, the show's not blurry. That's just how Franny looks IRL. It's true. I'm just pixelated. Let's see. Alicia Kitty Cat Meow Meow. It's true. Behind the Bastards does like a 3 or 4 part series on RFK Jr. if you're looking for a deep dive. He is the worst. He's a bad person. He's like a bad seed. It's like the movie what was the movie with Macaulay Culkin, like Bad Seed? He's like an evil child, right? But he lived. Let's see. Rachel Atwood, thank you for your super chat. Check out Flotilla footage in Spain for a happy cry. Dude, so many good people on that. And Tracy Ava's being so sweet, saying, don't sell yourself short, Francesca. Your background is journalism. That's why you're so good at this. It is. It really is. And I don't want to give fluff interviews because I feel like, especially if I have someone who, even Taylor, who I like, but I'm like, I want to ask her, about the fact checking and all this. I think that's trying to be responsible. And especially if I have elected officials on, I will be asking them a tough question, and it's on them if they want to come back. I think recently you all saw and heard that I had Yasmin Ansari on, and she's a representative from Arizona. And I believe. And, I did ask her about Gaza, and she kind of gave me boilerplate, pro-Israel talking points. I was really happy to see her name signed to a list of representatives who are calling for baby formula and food to be let into Gaza. My representative hasn't signed that, but she has. And so I'd like to think that some of this journalism and some of the pressure is really working. Sam Talarico says, was Sam Cedar, Emma Hassan, or Luke Beasley on the dark money list? I don't know about Luke Beasley, but I can probably bet that Sam, Emma, and Hassan were not. Which if they wanted leftist voices, they could have been offered that. I do think if you guys hadn't seen that moment that Hassan Piker straight up gets kicked out of the DNC, it is quite stark. I'm someone who didn't even get access to the DNC. I tried to apply as an influencer and I was rejected. And in the part of me was like, oh, I guess I don't have enough followers. I guess I'm not big enough. But then you see some of the people who were, and you see some of the people in this program, and you're like, okay, it's not necessarily about that. So no, Chomsky is my homeboy. I am not taking dark money, nor am I taking billionaire money. And I'd like to think if I did, I would be honest about it. I mean, I know I would. I would tell you guys, and then, we can decide. I also want to say, like, to be fair, I work for Al Jazeera Media Network, which is in part funded by the state of Qatar. Like, it's in part funded by the government of Qatar. Al Jazeera Media Network is also doing and has done award-winning, groundbreaking reporting. I worked at AJ Plus. But unlike the trolls, no, I wasn't given a slave because I worked for Al Jazeera. And no, they didn't have, like, final say on my content, save for the really funny story of the one time we depicted Jesus Christ. And because there are a lot of Muslims at Al Jazeera, of course, they were worried that maybe because we did a sketch about Jesus Christ, it was funny. And they were like, okay, you can post it on YouTube, but maybe don't put it on Facebook. They don't, because it was always like, and I just thought that was really funny because my friend Matt Gubser played Jesus Christ. The sketch was basically, what if Jesus came back and ran as a third-party candidate? Both Republicans and Democrats would call him a spoiler, even though it was Jesus Christ. So, but I will be honest, when they told us not to cover stuff, which was like one time. So, this is the other thing. It's like, even if, let's say, you believe like Russia Today is not a great outlet, they don't cover the Ukraine war, but if you're working for Russia Today, at least you're openly working for Russia Today. You're like, you got the RT logo there. You are working for this foreign government, very clearly, right? Whereas Tenet Media, which was funded by Russia Today and RT, that funded Tenet Media, that then gave a bunch of money to like, Tim Pool and to Benny Johnson, who has really the funniest origin story. Benny Johnson, both of them have like former Vice, BuzzFeed. These guys all used to work. They basically all were shit journalists. Benny Johnson was working at BuzzFeed, I believe, and then got caught having plagiarized 41 articles. It's like, there's no way someone like that succeeds without dark money. Like, that dude needed dark money. But what do we don't want our own. Like, can you imagine if we really had a Joe Rogan of the left who was just like this dumbass who just let anyone say whatever they wanted on their program and on their platform? First of all, Joe Rogan of the left would be a massive Zionist. Like, wouldn't that be awful? Don't you expect more from content creators who are coming from a progressive or leftist perspective? I don't know. That's just me. And thank you, Typical Canadian. I did think it was a great discussion. And yes, the Horchata Armada, never forget, it's the left-wing Tea Party. Viva la Horchata Armada. And with that, you guys, what a great show. Sorry for all of the technical problems. I will see you on Thursday, because I believe I'll be joined by Wajahat Ali and journalist Ken Klippenstein. Very excited to have him on. And thank you so much to you all. Don't let me forget the fart song. Don't let me forget. Don't let me forget. Let's take it out with the fart song and thank all the people that. And truly, it's been one guy, and his name is Dave Robinson, and he's the best person in the whole goddamn world. And I don't care what anyone says. Dave's never done anything wrong. His farts smell like gardenias, and he has the best facial hair, or no facial hair, which is also the best facial hair. We love you. Thank you for supporting this show. Let me go over if I can get Twitch going. Thank you so much, Known Anomaly. Thank you, Jager08 Larson, for giving out 5 community subs. So nice of you. Also for resubscribing. AJ Nestor, thank you for subscribing. 17 months strong. I saw your blonde character on Instagram over the weekend. Love it on Target as usual. Yes, that is Kayla Christie. Oh no, Caitlin Christie Kiley. I forgot what her name is, but you know the acronym. Onyx Squared, thanks so much for resubscribing. FS Society 13120, thanks for subscribing with Prime. Paige Larson as well. Appreciate you. And thanks over here to everyone on YouTube who has become a member. More content soon, more deep dives very, very soon. Thank you to Paige Omek, to Andy Vasoyan, to Brent Godin, the one and only Brent, the newest and latest but most wonderful addition to our team. We're streaming Tuesdays and trying to do Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Remember, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye.